Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 108, Fool's Gold. Today's mood music is brought to you by PSC featuring T.I. and Lil Scrappy, I'm a King.
I literally do not remember that song.
You don't?
No.
I'm a king. Something. I can't remember the word. Like I can hear it in my head, but I'm like, I just forgot.
Yeah. Bop,
right. Yeah, I cannot.
I just remember I'm a king, and that's it.
Okay. Well,
somebody in the comments they'll tell us.
They'll tell us.
Yeah.
Well, as we told you all last session, this month is about hustle and flow. So today we're going to be talking about romanticizing. What did I say?
No, you said this whole month is about hustle and flow, and I just like that since that's the movie that.
Oh yeah, that is the movie. So
it all worked together.
Yes,
as it always does.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about romanticizing the hood life. Now I have to tell y'all, I'm not even from the hood, but I am from Memphis, and all of Memphis is just hood. So.
Ergo,
we're going to be talking about right. So, why do people romanticize the hood life?
So, what I think kind of off the top is, I believe there's a fetishization of Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say, I think there's something that is very open yet mysterious about Black culture, while we're very welcoming. Again, I know we're not a monolith, so let me go ahead and just put that disclaimer out there. Mm-hmm. But we're speaking stereotypically. Mm-hmm. We are a very open culture, but there is a mystery about how we do some of the things that we do, and confidence culturally, right? There's an air of confidence that we have that I think people like to emulate. And on top of that, of course, violence and the quote unquote negative things are going to rise to the top. Sexual things, violence, because human beings love that stuff. Mm-hmm. So we really are. I mean, when you think about us on our base level, we really be out here just doing the most. So I think that's one of the things that kind of leads people to like draw towards the idea of hood culture from afar. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily I want to live it, but I like looking at it on some like zoo type stuff.
The thing that always pops up in my head is that people like to try us on like we're a good suit. Mm-hmm. They don't really live the life, and those that do live life don't live long in the life. But a lot of people like to try us on. You know, there's so many forums and videos and stuff about people rocking box braids and people talking like this, and I'm like, first of all, I want to say you realize that's their accent, like they're not like being boisterous, or they're not being these caricatures of themselves. Like they country, or they street, or whatever they are. Like I'll be looking at some of my relatives like, what did you say? And I was like, oh, okay, I got it. You know what I mean? I'm sure someone will be looking at me like that. Mm-hmm. So I think, like Dr. Strickland was saying, there's this mystery behind us, but people aren't really trying to get to know what is actually going on with the individual that they're looking at. It's just like, as a collective, oh, that's cool, let me do it.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, just for like the Black culture, we are all about family. And when you think about the hood, you think about everybody know each other, everybody take up for each other. If you can go knock on somebody's door, be like, "Hey, I need some sugar. You got some sugar?" Or everybody's kids can go over somebody's house. You gonna get your butt whooped. Like it's a community
Mm-hmm.
in itself. And I think that's one of the things that attract Black people to romanticize the hood.
And the hood is just short for neighborhood. I don't know where
Mm-hmm.
people forgot that.
Yeah.
It's the community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you from the neighborhood. Like I grew up in PDO. Like that's what they called it. Pasadena Organization or Pasadena Heights Organization. Like, oh, you from PD? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's all that means. It has changed and shifted or whatever into something derogatory.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna go down that road because I almost had a moment. I was almost about to go into a whole political side. We're not doing that on this episode.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't think that there's real understanding at all from an outsider perspective. And then even sometimes within culture, I do believe that there's a huge class issue here, um, because the haves are enamored with the have nots. And I hate even saying it that way, but that really is what it is. A lot of the issues that we have in American culture is really based off class.
Mm-hmm.
And because the have nots find a way to make it look good, to make it look appealing and fun, and like you said about community, the haves are like, whoa, well, wait a minute. Wait, you should not be able to be.
You should not be happy.
Right. You should not be doing the things that you're doing because you don't have what I have.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that,
why the song "Oh My Mom"? That's the song that is playing in my head, and I'm like, come on, ghetto affirmation.
Yes.
You dancing over there by yourself.
Yes, agreed. But I think because the have-nots are also, that leads to people doing things to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this weird combination because we as a human culture love violence, we love gore, we love danger. And when we see that and I'm shielded from it, it just makes it that much more appealing to me. And I want to try it on. Mm-hmm. So you get for them, they get the best of both worlds. They get to see the happy, like the kids with the fire hydrant and running out in the streets and running and playing, but they also get to see, individuals trying to take each other out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing about it is, although you have the sections and times when people trying to take each other out, all the time it's not people from the same hood. It's people from different hoods. But if you think about the people that's in that particular hood, it's all community. It's all embracing of themselves. It's but because we glorify gory and harming ourselves.
Yeah.
It takes over what the hood actually is.
Yeah, there's this concept in animation, and I know just follow me, just go with me here. There's a concept in animation that's called Flanderization, and it's built off Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, and how over time animation, the longer that series runs, the more generic that thing becomes. And I think what has happened with the idea of hood culture, gang culture, thug culture, whatever you want to call it, there has been a Flanderization of that. So it doesn't look as, and I hate saying the word bad because that's not really what I mean, but it doesn't look as bad because it's been Flanderized. You talk about chains and people making money, and it's on TV and it's in movies, and it seems unreal. If you don't have to live that life, you get to pretend as if this is just a story, that this is not the way that people actually live. Now, I don't know if I don't believe that that's what it was back in the day, like maybe the 60s and 70s, like things with like good times and stuff like that. But I do believe that started to happen after movies like Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, things like Dead Presidents. After those types of films kind of came into the public eye, combined with groups like NWA, while it was from our standpoint meant to be a showcase and a storytelling of what our experience is, I believe that through that exposure, it also flanderized our experience.
Well, I think because it's, excuse me, it's because, like you said, we have several celebrities, from athletes to rappers to singers, who made it per se. And now it's like, they made it off of telling their story.
Mhm.
They made it off of it, because Tupac made some wonderful music off of his life
Yeah.
and off of the lives of the other people that he saw.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so when people hear that and see that, then they think that they have to mimic that
Mhm.
and pretend that they are also. Sir, you live in suburbia,
Okay.
which is nothing wrong with that, but rap about your life.
Mhm.
And come up with a cool way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is where I think of like Eminem. He is somebody that rapped about his life,
Mm-hmm.
and while I don't use this terminology, but being trailer park,
Mm-hmm.
that's essentially socially the white version of the hood.
Mm-hmm.
But he rapped about his experience growing up in that environment. He did not rap about his experience being a white boy with black friends.
Mm-hmm. Which is why he was able to cross over,
Mhm.
because his rap was truthful. He was angry,
Yes,
but
there was a lot in there.
And
yeah,
it was always about him.
Right.
Even when he had, like that Marshall Mathers, EPLP, whatever it's called. Like, he was his angry self, but we also saw his goofy self. Like, he is a master troll. He trolled better than who with him? Half a dollar, 50 cents. You know what I mean? I couldn't just say
She
it.
like, wait,
said,
what?
half a dollar.
I'm turning old, y'all. That's the problem. All I kept
Half
seeing
a
was
dollar.
Chocolate Man. That's all I kept seeing with like his jaw.
Did you see
Shut.
my face? I was like, wait, what? What is going on here? Yeah.
But I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Even now, like, he can come and he still is true and authentic to himself. There has been times where he got to go sit down somewhere because he's doing too much and alienating himself. Because I think he didn't have any boundaries. We talked about that last session, not having no boundaries with your hustle.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you can be authentic wherever you're coming from, that's why a lot of people when Drake first came out, they were like, this cornball here.
Mhm.
Because what he was trying to do was not who he really was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now, yeah, he got a little street cred because of the people he hang out with, but we still remember your Aubrey.
Jimmy.
Degrassi.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason like shows like Fresh Prince were so successful, right?
Mhm.
Because it gave you both elements of this was affluent. This wasn't even suburban. This is affluent,
Mhm.
which is a whole nother hood
Yep.
in itself. But the young hood boy and the affluent family, and how those worlds can collide and mesh and work well, which is what I think kind of speaks what I was saying a little bit earlier, that a lot of this is about class,
Yeah.
not necessarily race based. But I mean, we can definitely make it that way, but I don't know if that's the basis of a lot of this, because you can look
The
at
systems are,
right, you
but
look
not
at the
this.
Appalachian and like West Virginia and things like that. There is a tremendous amount of crime,
Mhm.
drug usage in those areas, and those are vastly predominantly white areas,
Mhm.
and you see similar types of behavior. It's just not glamorized in the same way that it is for Black
It's
culture.
the
Well-
acceptable country versus people don't realize like the Great Migration. Those people were in the country.
Mhm.
And
Well,
they moved to these other parts.
and they continue to want to view us as the criminals, the less
Mhm.
accomplished, or the less liked, or the
Mhm.
villains.
Yeah.
So
Well, this is not something that's new to American culture, right? Being Black people being viewed as a show.
mhm.
You think about Sarah Bartman, like this is not something that we have not, that hasn't been since the dawn, Mandingo fighting.
Mhm.
This is old stuff.
Mhm.
It's the same thing, just with a new set of clothes. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, and who knows how it will change over time into something new. 100,
Or some old.
200 years from now, with the way the U.S. is reverting back
Yeah,
to some old decisions.
behaviors.
But I do think that is something that we have to be mindful of, especially now, because, and I hate saying that social media, but I think it's very clear how detrimental social media has been to human psyche. And because now these things are blasted on such a scale that we can't even imagine at this point. 40 years ago, you wouldn't even think about a picture that I took today being seen by somebody halfway across the world.
Mhm.
But now you can snap a photo and within seconds, millions of people have seen it. And so I think we have to be very careful, specifically within Black culture, on how we want the world to view us. And then even on a broader scale, American culture, what we are putting out, and how we want the world to receive us as a country as well.
Well, and I think the hood, any hood, need to reinvent how it's seen as well.
Mhm.
Even if it is, the hood as we know, they can still change the, like, we can still begin to see more of the family, more of the community, more of the bonding, more of the, love that's there.
Mhm.
I think, because I think that those things is what people don't see, because you don't necessarily pay attention to the hood unless some shooting or something has happened.
Mhm. Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback on that, a thing to remember is that emulating that lifestyle doesn't equal strength.
Oh, right.
It doesn't equal masculine, it doesn't equal anything of the sort, because these are individuals engaging behavior that likely is necessary for the environment that they live in, unless we're talking about somebody that is on a affluent scale.
Mhm.
Even if you came from that lifestyle, once you reach a certain financial status, you no longer relate to that life anymore.
But I would, yes, but I would also say some do, which is why some don't make it. When I say make it, they like unalive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
You talking about by somebody else or themselves?
by somebody else, like Tupac, Biggie.
Oh, mm-hmm.
You saw
Living that life ain't
right.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
It is
And
not.
leaving that life is not easy, because it's all you know.
You know,
Or leaving that mentality. Let me say
Yes.
that.
and somebody who did a great job of leaving that life but still was unalive was, Nipsey Hussle.
Mm.
He
Mhm.
was doing so many great things, but people gonna be people.
Mhm.
So, you can't always avoid certain situations when you go back and be part of those communities that you were in.
Which is why I say you don't relate anymore. So it's
Mhm.
not necessarily that you don't have the mentality to
Mhm.
relate, but because you are in a completely different status
Mhm.
than the individuals around you, you don't relate to them anymore.
Yeah.
You may have at one point, but you are no longer seen as, you may be celebrated and people love you, but you are not really seen as a part of.
You're seen as
Anymore.
somebody who got out.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it is difficult and dangerous, for people that do get to a certain income level, to be able to support their communities. A lot of times it has to be done, um, like third party, like
Yeah.
like going to, standing in front of the food pantry and handing out, bags of food is just not going to be your ministry anymore.
Well, and that's the thing. I think people try to keep one foot in because it's like, don't forget where you came from.
Mhm.
You can live your life and not forget where you came from by doing other things.
Yeah.
I think the other side of the romanticizing the hood life is those individuals that go after the bad boys, the bad girls,
Mhm.
the dudes, all that. And I think that is a
Yeah.
The rims and the
power
Tims.
that. I think it's a
Yeah.
power dynamic. I think it is some sort of like hierarchy
Mm-hmm.
going on in that. And so people will go after folks that are not good for you, and then you done messed up your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Got pregnant,
Man.
can't do nothing about it.
Right.
Man.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
That is like
that.
I'm man.
The memories.
I know.
Back down
Reminiscing on the
memory
love we
lane.
had.
I was
But wouldn't
stumbled
want
on
no
this
more.
photograph. It did not make me laugh.
Mm.
Man, but I agree.
Yeah.
Because it's one about certain types of culture and our idea of man, our idea of woman, and we that's why I talk about that Flanderization, right? We caricature these types of individuals. So they are the extreme versions, the ones we see. Now, your everyday person that lives the hood life does not look like what you see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So we caricature them to the point of they're appealing.
Yeah.
So we want that, and I can't tell you how many posts and comments I've read on people saying that, oh, I like that toxic love, or I like that
Struggle love.
like, wait, what? What? But when you see that, and that's what's being fed to you, that struggle love, toxic love, that break up to make up, is the way to go. Your society is going to start emulating what they see. You are what you eat, and that's not necessarily just actual food, it's everything that you consume. So if you consume, and again, these shows have cultural relevance, but things like Love and Hip Hop, the Real Housewives series, when you consume images and things like that have this undertone to them, it's hard to sometimes separate yourself from that it's not reality.
There's no critical thinking going on when you're consuming some of those things. Like I can look at it and be like, oh, I'm looking at this just for entertainment purposes. But there are other people who really believe that this is real life versus it being scripted,
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of a lot of these types of relationships and both sides are saying, oh, I want a good man, or I want a good woman, or I want this. I said, no, you want a gold digger and you want a hood boy, a street dude.
Mm-hmm.
Had to edit myself.
Mm-hmm.
You want a street dude. So don't sit up and lie and say one thing when what you're actually going after are these things.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Man, there's a lot there. I mean, there's so much that we could unpack with this, and we could be here for 3-4 hours. I mean, because you could.
This is one of those topics I wish we were live. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think we would get some really good conversation going with this topic.
Absolutely,
because some of our followers are retired street people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you could even go like all the way back into the history of just how even the hood got developed.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving you guys like a very cursory overview of this topic. And there are likely a lot of YouTube videos that will dive in deeper on certain parts of this subject. But, you can really hit this from so many angles. And if you are in the Black community and the brown community to some extent as well, because they have a similar kind of fetishization as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are part of this community, this is something that will likely touch you very deeply. You probably know somebody that has lived this lifestyle, been with somebody that's lived this lifestyle. So it is something that's important for all of us to be aware of on how we are denigrating it or contributing to it.
What I would really like is for our interns to engage in conversation about this on in the comments of any post that we may put up about it, or even on our YouTube channel, because I think this is a really good conversation piece for us to begin to make some change and glamorize it in a different way.
Yes. So this is a conversation for Black people. Like Kev on stage said. I can't remember what meme that was, but he said it's for Black people. So I'm just gonna put that out there since we're talking about hood culture, which is usually attributed to Black people.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think if we're talking about community conversations, these are ones that need to be done within our community and not always involve people that are not a part of.
Unless that is your experience. Now, if that was your experience, that's different. But that's typically a rarity. So,
yes.
And when we say your experience, like you actually lived in the hood, not in trailers, in the hood.
Yes. Around the things that we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, this is pertaining. We always pick from the movies that we will show at the end of the month. So that is why it is on this trajectory.
Yes.
Yes. There's a level of edge that I think that people, have. Like, you just have to. It's one of those things you just got to know. It's hard to explain.
It's the swagger that everybody tries to have, and the swagger is bred from survival, not from cuteness.
Bars.
And on that note,
I ain't got nothing else to say. I ain't got nothing to say about that.
Okay.
So y'all know we end off with a quote. We ain't even got no. What do you do if it? No,
ain't
none
of that.
None of that.
Okay.
We're not gonna tell people to pull yourself up by your bootstraps to get out the hood. No, because that's not realistic for everybody.
No.
That system, their access to services and resources, it's just not even appropriate to say.
And if you believe that, then give them the bootstraps.
Yeah. As someone who worked for the state, stop lying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. Stop lying. Because a lot of times, me as a state worker, I was giving part of my paycheck to some of my families to help them out. Because the state don't always got the resources. The family sure don't got the resources. So I'm like, let me help you in the way I can. Let me feed your kids. Let me make sure y'all got diapers. So miss me with that.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. Here come this quote, y'all.
That we said 5 minutes ago.
This one is anonymous, as many of ours tend to be. I'm street, so look both ways before you cross me.
Boom.
Boom goes the dice.
Must be this volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at the Recycled Podcast. If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.